His fingers dug into her throat, slammed her against the cold metal wall, his breath hot against her face. "You think you can survive here, sweetheart? I'll bury you in this ocean and no one will ever find the body." Elena Vance didn't scream, didn't beg. Her knee drove upward into his groin. Her palm cracked against his nose. Blood sprayed across her face. He collapsed. Gasping. Broken. She stood over him, chest-heaving, voice flat as death. "I warned you. Touch me again and you'll regret it." He did. And 72 hours later, his career was ashes, his freedom was gone, and Elena Vance was still standing with a Navy SEAL trident pinned to her chest. If you want to see how a 19-year-old girl destroyed an admiral and became a legend, subscribe now and stay until the end. Comment your city. I want to see how far her story travels. The bus stopped at the gates of Naval Special Warfare Center Coronado, and Elena Vance was the last one off. 143 men had already filed through those gates. Young, hungry, convinced they were going to become legends. They walked with their chests out, and their jaws set, performing toughness for each other, like actors in a war movie none of them had earned the right to star in. Elena carried a single sea bag over her shoulder. She weighed 125 pounds. She stood 5'5" in her boots. And she was about to become the first woman in history to attempt full Navy SEAL training. Not the modified version, not the integrated program some admiral's committee had designed to make everyone feel good about diversity. The real thing. The same Hell Week. The same drowning drills. The same instructors who had broken 10,000 men over 30 years. She had earned this slot the only way that mattered, by being better than every other candidate who applied. But that didn't matter to the men watching her walk through those gates. "That's her," someone muttered. "The diversity hire. Give her 3 days, maybe 4. $20 says she doesn't make it to Hell Week." Elena heard every word. She cataloged the voices, memorized the faces, and kept walking. The intake processing room smelled like sweat and industrial cleaner. A chief petty officer sat behind a metal desk, stamping papers with the mechanical rhythm of someone who had done this 10,000 times before. "Name," he said without looking up. "Vance Elena. Seaman." The stamping stopped. He looked up. His eyes traveled from her face to her shoulders, to her sea bag, and back again. "You're the female." "I'm a candidate, Chief." Something flickered in his expression. Not hostility, exactly. Something more like curiosity mixed with pity. "Room assignments in your packet. Chow Hall opens at 0500. Orientation briefing at 0600. He paused. "You know what you're walking into, Vance?" "Yes, Chief." "No, you don't." He leaned forward. "I've been processing candidates for 19 years. Best athletes in the country. Special Forces transfers, Olympic swimmers, combat veterans with 3 tours downrange. 75% of them quit before Hell Week ends. 90% of the ones who make it through still wash out eventually." He slid her packet across the desk. "You're not just fighting the training. You're fighting 143 men who think you're here to prove a point. You're fighting instructors who've never trained a woman and don't want to start. You're fighting a system that wasn't built for you and doesn't want you." Elena took the packet. Her fingers didn't tremble. "Then I'll change the system, Chief." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head and went back to his stamps. "Next candidate." The barracks hallway stretched 40 meters, lined with doors on both sides. Each door had a number. Each number represented a candidate who believed he was special. Elena found her room at the end of the hall. Single occupancy. The only single room in the building. "Privacy for the princess," a voice called out behind her. She turned. 3 men stood in the hallway. Mid-20s, built like they'd been lifting weights since middle school. The one in front had a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Kyle Brennan," he said. "My father was a SEAL. My grandfather was a SEAL. My great-uncle died on a beach in Grenada with a trident on his chest." He stepped closer. "What's your legacy, Vance?" "I don't have one yet." "No, you don't. And you won't." He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. The kind that came in bottles shaped like grenades. "You're here because some politician wrote a memo. Some admiral's wife had a feeling session. Some committee decided that 40 years of tradition needed to be sacrificed on the altar of political correctness." Elena didn't step back. Her voice stayed level. "I'm here because I qualified. You're here because they lowered the standards. They didn't lower anything. Same PST scores, same requirements, same application process." She tilted her head slightly. "If you're worried about the standards, Brennan, maybe you should focus on meeting them yourself." The smile vanished from his face. "Watch yourself, Vance. This isn't some co-ed gym class. Out here, accidents happen. People get hurt. Sometimes people don't come home at all." "Is that a threat?" "It's advice." He turned to walk away, then paused. "My father's an admiral, by the way, just so you know who you're dealing with." "I'll try to remember that." He walked away. His two friends followed. Elena watched them go, memorizing their faces, their gaits, the way they held their shoulders. Her father had taught her that. Not in person, he had died when she was 3 years old, but through letters he had written before his last deployment. Letters that explained how to read people, how to identify threats, how to survive in a world that wanted you to fail. She opened her door and stepped inside. The room was small. A bed, a desk, a locker. Nothing else. She set her sea bag on the bed and pulled out the only personal item she had, brought a photograph in a cheap plastic frame. A man in dress blues holding a baby girl. His smile was wide and genuine. The baby was reaching for his face with tiny fingers. Elena propped the photo on her desk. "I'm here, Dad," she said quietly. "Just like I promised." The orientation briefing filled a room designed to intimidate. Concrete walls, metal chairs bolted to the floor, a stage at the front where 3 instructors stood like judges at a trial where everyone had already been found guilty. Elena sat in the back row. Far right seat. Clear view of the entrance, the exits, and every face in the room. The senior instructor stepped forward. Master Chief David Harmon, 52 years old, 6 deployments, 2 silver stars, a face that looked like it had been carved from driftwood and left to weather in the sun. "Welcome to Buds," he said. His voice was quiet. He didn't need to shout. The room was already silent. "Basic underwater demolition SEAL training. 24 weeks of the most demanding military training on the planet." He walked slowly across the stage, his eyes moving from face to face. "Look around you. 144 candidates. By the time this is over, maybe 30 of you will graduate, maybe 20. Some classes, it's been less than 15. He stopped in the center of the stage. "To my left is the bell. You will see it every day. You will hear it every time someone quits. When you can't take it anymore, when the pain becomes too much, when your body fails you, when your mind tells you that nothing is worth this, all you have to do is ring that bell 3 times, and it's over. Hot shower. Warm meal. Bus ticket home." His eyes found Elena in the back row, held there for 2 seconds longer than necessary. "Some of you are here for the wrong reasons. Ego, pride, something to prove. You won't last. The only candidates who survive this training are the ones who want it more than they want to breathe." He stepped back. Training begins tomorrow at 0400. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. The dining facility was loud with masculine energy. Candidates clustered in groups, establishing hierarchies, sizing each other up. The law of the pack playing out in real time. Elena took her tray to an empty table in the corner. She ate alone. She preferred it that way. Mind if I sit? She looked up. A young man stood across from her, tray in hand. Dark hair average built a face that was more thoughtful than threatening. Free country, she said. He sat down. Jake Reyes, originally from San Antonio. Elena Vance, Montana. I know who you are. He picked up his fork, started eating. Everyone knows who you are? And you're still sitting here. I figure the woman brave enough to walk into this place alone might be worth knowing. He shrugged. Besides, my grandmother raised me, taught me that courage doesn't have a gender. Elena studied him for a moment, looking for the angle, the agenda. Everyone had one. What do you want, Reyes? Nothing. Just lunch. He took a bite, chewed, swallowed. But if you're asking what I think you're going to surprise a lot of people. And I think some of those people aren't going to like being surprised. You've got opinions for someone I just met. I've been watching the way Brennan and his crew look at you, the way the instructors look at you, the way you look back at all of them. He set down his fork. You're not scared, Vance. Everyone else in this room is scared whether they admit it or not. But you're not. That either makes you crazy or dangerous. I'm hoping it's dangerous. Elena allowed herself the smallest smile. We'll see. The first training day began in darkness. 4 a.m., instructors storming through the barracks, banging on doors, screaming candidates awake. The chaos was deliberate, designed to shatter sleep-fogged minds before they could fully wake. Elena was already dressed when her door burst open. Already standing. Already waiting. The instructor who filled her doorway was new. Not one of the three from orientation. This one was younger, late 20s, maybe 30, with the build of a cruiserweight boxer and eyes that held something cold and calculating. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Drake, he said, stepping into her room. I'll be your personal instructor for the duration of your training. Personal instructor, special assignment, making sure you receive appropriate attention. His smile was thin. Can't have you claiming we didn't take your training seriously, can we? Elena met his gaze. I didn't ask for special treatment. You didn't have to. Your presence here is special treatment. He stepped closer, close enough to violate every boundary of professional distance. Let me be clear, Vance. I don't think you belong here. I don't think women belong in combat. And I think this whole experiment is going to end with somebody getting hurt. Is that your professional assessment? That's reality. And reality doesn't care about your feelings. He turned toward the door. Formation in 5 minutes. Don't be late. He was gone. Elena stood motionless for 3 seconds. Then she reached into her sea bag and pulled out her father's first letter. The one he had written when she was still a baby. The one she had memorized before she learned to read it. Ellie, you will face men who think they can break you. They can't. They'll try with words first, then with actions. Let them try. Show them nothing. Give them nothing. And when the moment comes, and it will come, make them regret every single second they spent underestimating you. She folded the letter, placed it in her chest pocket, over her heart. Then she walked out to face the day. The grinder was a concrete courtyard designed for pain. Candidates lined up in formation, shivering in the pre-dawn cold. The Pacific Ocean roared somewhere in the darkness beyond the beach. Drake paced in front of the formation, his voice cutting through the salt air. Welcome to day 1. By the end of today, some of you will quit. By the end of this week, more of you will quit. By the end of Hell Week, most of you will quit. He stopped directly in front of Elena. Any questions? Silence. Good. We'll start with a 2-mile soft sand run. Full boots, then log PT, then surf torture, then, maybe if you're lucky, breakfast. He blew his whistle. Move. The formation broke. Candidates sprinted toward the beach. Elena ran with them, finding her pace, settling into the rhythm her body knew by instinct. Montana Winters had taught her about endurance, about pushing through when everything screamed, stop. She had run through snowdrifts at 9,000 feet. She had swum in glacial lakes until her skin turned blue. She had tracked elk through terrain that would kill an unprepared man in hours. This was just sand, just boots, just another test. But she could feel Drake's eyes on her back the entire run. Watching, waiting, looking for weakness. She gave him nothing. Log PT was designed to destroy teamwork. 6-man teams carrying 200-pound logs through soft sand, running, squatting, pressing, the log crushing shoulders, arms burning, legs screaming. Elena's team had been deliberately assembled. 5 men who hadn't chosen her. 5 men who blamed her for every failure. Keep up, Vance. You're slowing us down. Should have stayed in the kitchen. She didn't respond, just shifted her grip, took more weight, pushed harder. Jake Reyes was on her team. He caught her eye, nodded once, then shifted his own position to balance the load. Shut up and lift, he growled at the others. She's carrying her share. She's carrying the team down. Then lift harder. That's on you, not her. The argument died. The log kept moving. But Drake was watching. Always watching. Surf torture came next. The candidates lined up at the water's edge, then walked into the Pacific until the water reached their chests. The temperature was 58 degrees. Cold enough to steal breath. Cold enough to make muscles seize and thoughts fragment. Link arms, Drake commanded. You stay in that water until I say otherwise. The candidates linked arms. Elena found herself between Reyes and another man, a quiet guy named Torres, who hadn't said 2 words all morning. They pressed together, sharing what little body heat they had. Minutes passed. 5. 10. 15. Men started shaking, teeth chattering so hard they couldn't speak. The cold became a living thing crawling into bones, wrapping around hearts. Anyone want to quit? Drake called from the beach. It's warm up here. Hot coffee waiting. All you have to do is ring that bell. No one moved. 20 minutes. The man on Torres's other side suddenly went limp, hypothermia setting in. Medical personnel rushed into the water, dragged him out. His training was over before it had really begun. That's one, Drake announced. Who's next? Elena focused on her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her father had written about cold water immersion in his letters, about finding the calm place in your mind where the cold couldn't reach. She found it. 30 minutes. 2 more men quit. They walked out of the water on shaking legs and rang the bell. The sound echoed across the beach like a funeral toll. Vance. Drake was walking along the waterline, now speaking directly to her. You look cold. You look like you're suffering. Why don't you come on out? No one will blame you. You made it further than anyone expected. Elena kept her eyes forward, said nothing. Come on, sweetheart. This isn't personal. This is just biology. Women can't handle this kind of stress. There's no shame in admitting it. Reyes squeezed her arm. Torres did the same on the other side. Elena let the cold flow through her, around her, past her. She wasn't going anywhere. 45 minutes later, Drake finally called them out. 11 men had quit during surf torture. Elena Vance was still standing. Chow time. The survivors ate in exhausted silence, shoveling calories into bodies that had burned through reserves they didn't know they had. Elena sat at her corner table. Reyes sat across from her. Torres joined them without asking. "You're tougher than you look," Torres said. First words he had spoken to her. "Thanks." Wasn't a compliment, just an observation. He took a bite of his eggs. "Drake has it out for you. You know that, right?" I noticed. "It's not just the woman thing. I heard him talking to Brennan last night. Something personal going on there." Elena looked up. "What kind of personal?" "Don't know. But Brennan's father made a phone call. Next thing you know, Drake gets assigned as your personal instructor." Torres shrugged. "I'm just saying, watch your back." "I always do." Reyes leaned in. "If they're coordinating against you, we need to coordinate back. Torres and I can—" "No." Elena's voice was firm. "I appreciate the offer, but if I survive this, it has to be on my own merits. If I use a support network, they'll say I couldn't hack it alone. That's stupid. That's reality." She stood, picked up her tray. "But I won't forget the offer." She walked away before either of them could argue. Day 1 became Day 2. Day 2 became Day 3. The training was relentless. 4 a.m. wake-ups, 20-hour days, sleep measured in minutes instead of hours. Candidates dropped like flies. The bell rang so often it became background noise. By the end of the first week, 43 men had quit. 12 more had been medically discharged. Elena was still standing, but Drake wasn't letting up. He assigned her extra punishment for infractions no one else received. A bootlace slightly loose 50 burpees. A rucksack not perfectly aligned 2-mile sand run. A response that was half a second too slow surf torture while the others ate dinner. She took it all. Said nothing. Gave nothing. But the pressure was building. It happened on Day 8. Evening. The equipment room. Elena was cleaning her dive gear for tomorrow's pool evolution. Alone. The door opened. Closed. Drake stood there, blocking the exit. "We need to talk, Vance." "About what, petty officer?" He walked closer. Slowly. Deliberately. "About your future in this program." "My future is my concern." "No. See, that's where you're wrong." He was within arm's reach now. "Your future is my concern, because I decide whether you pass or fail. I decide whether you make it to Hell Week. I decide whether your dream lives or dies." Elena set down the dive gear. Her hands were steady. "Is there a point to this conversation?" "The point is this." He leaned in, close enough that she could smell tobacco on his breath. "You don't belong here. You never did. And the easiest thing for everyone would be if you just went away. I'm not going anywhere. See, I thought you might say that." His hand came up, grabbed her shoulder, squeezed hard enough to leave bruises. "So let me make this clearer." He pulled her toward him. "Some accidents are harder to explain than others. A slip during a night swim, a fall during rock portage, equipment that malfunctions at the wrong moment." His grip tightened. "I've been doing this for 12 years. I know how to make things happen, and I know how to make sure no one asks questions afterward." Elena didn't struggle, didn't panic. Her voice came out flat and cold. "Take your hand off me. Or what? You'll report me, your word against mine. And sweetheart, my word carries a lot more weight around here than yours. I won't ask again." He laughed. The sound was ugly. "What are you going to do, Vance? Hit me. That would solve all my problems. Assault on an instructor. Immediate discharge. Probably criminal charges. Your career ends tonight." For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Elena spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "My father was a SEAL. Did you know that—" Drake's grip loosened slightly. Confusion flickered across his face. "Chief Petty Officer Thomas Vance, killed in Fallujah in 2006. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He wrote me letters before he deployed. Taught me things. About tactics. About pressure points. About what happens to the human body when you know exactly where to strike." She looked up at him. Her gray-green eyes were completely calm. "Right now, my thumb is half an inch from your brachial plexus. If I press hard enough, your entire right arm goes numb for 6 hours. Your grip strength drops to 0, and there's no bruise, no evidence, nothing for anyone to see." Drake's face changed. "You're bluffing. My father didn't raise me to bluff." A long moment passed. Then Elena moved. Not a strike, just a slight shift of her body weight, a repositioning of her hand. Drake released her shoulder like he had been burned. "Touch me again," Elena said quietly, "and you'll regret it." He stared at her. His face cycled through emotions, anger, confusion, something that might have been fear. "This isn't over, Vance." "No, it's not." He turned and walked out. Elena stood alone in the equipment room, her heart beating steady at 72 beats per minute. Her father had taught her that too. How to stay calm when everything around you was chaos. She picked up her dive gear and went back to cleaning it. Tomorrow was another day. And Hell Week was coming. 3 days later, Kyle Brennan approached her on the grinder. "I heard you had a conversation with Drake," he said, his voice low so the others couldn't hear. "News travels fast. My father's an admiral. Nothing happens on this base without him knowing." Brennan's smile was cold. "You made a mistake, Vance. Drake was going to make your life difficult. Now he's going to make it impossible." "I'll take my chances." "No, you won't." He stepped closer. "Because here's what's going to happen. During Hell Week, something bad is going to happen to you. Maybe a training accident. Maybe equipment failure. Maybe you just disappear during a night evolution." Elena met his gaze without flinching. "And you're telling me this because I want you to know. I want you to spend every day between now and Hell Week knowing it's coming, and knowing there's nothing you can do to stop it." He turned to walk away. "Sleep well, Vance, while you still can." He walked away. Elena watched him go. Then she pulled out a small notebook from her pocket and wrote down the date, time, and exactly what Brennan had said. Word for word. Her father had taught her something else in those letters. Documentation was ammunition, and she was going to need plenty of both. That night, Elena sat on the beach alone, watching the Pacific swallow the sunset. Her body ached. Her muscles burned. Every joint felt like it had been filled with sand and ground glass. But her mind was clear. She pulled out her father's photograph. The man in dress blues holding a baby girl, smiling like he had never known fear. "They're coming for me, Dad," she whispered to the waves. "They're going to try to break me, try to hurt me, try to make me disappear." The waves crashed, the wind blew, the sun sank lower. "But I'm not going to let them. I'm going to survive Hell Week. I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to make them all regret every single moment they spent underestimating me." She put the photograph away. Somewhere behind her, she knew Drake was watching. Brennan was planning. Forces were gathering against her. She didn't care. Hell Week started in 4 days, and Elena Vance was ready to show them all what a woman could do. She had no way of knowing that the conspiracy against her went deeper than Drake and Brennan. that an admiral's phone call had set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. That before Hell Week was over, she would face a choice that would change everything. But that's exactly what happened. And when it did, Elena Vance proved that some people aren't meant to be broken. They're meant to break the ones who try. 4 days passed like stones sinking through dark water. Elena trained. She ran. She swam. She carried logs until her shoulders screamed and her hands bled through the tape. And every single day she felt Drake's eyes on her back, watching, waiting, calculating. Brennan kept his distance, but his smile never faded. The smile of a man who knew something she didn't. On the morning Hell Week was scheduled to begin, Elena woke at 300, 1 hour before the instructors would storm the barracks. 1 hour of silence before the chaos started. She sat on her bunk and read her father's letter one more time. Hell Week isn't about strength. It's about will. Your body will quit 1,000 times. Your mind has to say no 1,001. Remember that when everything else fails. She folded the letter, placed it in the waterproof pouch she would wear against her skin for the next 5.5 days. Then she closed her eyes and waited. The explosion came at 0347. Flashbang grenades, simulation rounds, instructors screaming at full volume, doors being kicked in, chaos erupting from every direction at once. Elena was on her feet before the first grenade finished echoing. Already dressed, already moving. She hit the hallway at a dead sprint. Around her, candidates stumbled out of their rooms in various states of confusion. Some were half-dressed. Some were crying. One man was curled in the fetal position, hands over his ears. Move, move, move. The instructors' voices blended into a wall of sound. Get to the grinder. Anyone not on the grinder in 60 seconds gets extra surf torture. Elena ran. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Her body knew what to do. She made it to the grinder in 43 seconds, one of the first to arrive. Drake was waiting. Well, well, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Look who's eager. Ready for the worst week of your life, Vance. Ready, petty officer? We'll see about that. The other candidates flooded onto the grinder, confused, terrified, already broken before the real breaking had begun. Hell Week had started, and it was going to be worse than any of them could imagine. The first evolution was surf torture. Of course it was. The instructors loved starting with cold, because cold stripped away everything, pride, confidence, the illusion that willpower was enough. 112 candidates waded into the Pacific. The water temperature had dropped to 54 degrees overnight. Cold enough to stop hearts, cold enough to steal souls. Link arms, Master Chief Harmon commanded. You will stay in this water until I decide you've earned the right to leave. Elena found herself between Reyes and Torres. The three of them had become an unofficial team over the past week. Not friends exactly, something more practical. Survivors who recognized each other. How long do you think? Reyes muttered through chattering teeth. Doesn't matter, Elena said. Don't count, just breathe. Easy for you to say. I grew up swimming in glacier runoff. This is a hot tub. Torres laughed. The sound was broken by shivering, but it was real. You're insane, Vance. Probably. 20 minutes passed. 30. Men started dropping. The bell rang 6 times in the first hour. 6 more dreams dying in the pre-dawn darkness. Drake walked along the waterline, speaking into a bullhorn. Who wants out hot coffee on the beach? Warm blankets. All you have to do is ring that bell. No shame in it. 75% of you are going to quit anyway. Why not do it now and save yourself the suffering? No one moved. Vance, you look cold. Your lips are turning blue. Come on out, sweetheart. You've proven your point. No one expects you to finish this. Elena kept her eyes forward. Said nothing. Your father quit, you know. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena's head snapped toward Drake. That's right. I looked him up, Chief Petty Officer Thomas Vance. You know what his instructors wrote in his evaluation? Lacks mental fortitude. Quit during pool competency. He rang out Vance, just like you're going to. Elena's hands clenched into fists under the water. That's a lie. Is it? I've got the record, sweetheart. Your daddy was a quitter. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Something shifted in Elena's chest. Not anger. Something colder. Something that had been sleeping since she was 3 years old and learned her father was never coming home. My father, she said, her voice carrying across the water, earned a Bronze Star, pulling 3 wounded Marines to safety in Fallujah. My father died with a rifle in his hands and his team behind him. My father never quit anything in his life. She took a step forward, then another, walking toward the shore, toward Drake. And I am going to finish this training. I am going to earn my trident. And when I do, I am going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. Drake's smile flickered, just for a moment, just long enough. Get back in formation, Vance. Yes, Petty Officer. She walked back to her place between Reyes and Torres, linked arms again. Holy hell, Torres breathed. You've got a death wish. No, I've got a plan. 45 minutes later, they were finally allowed out of the water. 18 men had quit during surf torture. Elena's body was numb from the neck down, but her mind was clear as glass. Drake had made a mistake. He had made it personal. And personal mistakes were the kind that cost careers. The first day of Hell Week blurred into the second into the third. Time lost meaning. Sleep became a distant memory. Pain became a constant companion as familiar as breathing. Log PT, surf torture, rock portage, mud runs, evolution after evolution designed to find breaking points and exploit them. Candidates dropped like autumn leaves. The bell rang so often that Elena stopped counting. By Wednesday morning, 63 men had quit. Another 12 had been medically rolled. 37 remained. Elena was one of them. But something had changed in the way the instructors treated her. After her confrontation with Drake, a divide had formed. Some instructors pushed her harder, clearly aligned with Drake's agenda. Others had backed off slightly, their eyes holding something that looked almost like respect. Master Chief Harmon fell into the second category. Vance, he said during a brief rest period on Wednesday afternoon. A word. She followed him away from the other candidates. Her legs moved like they belonged to someone else. Her eyes burned from salt and exhaustion. You're doing something I haven't seen in 30 years of training, Harmon said quietly. What's that, Master Chief? You're getting stronger. Most candidates break down over Hell Week. You're building up. He studied her face. What's your secret? No secret, Master Chief. Just too stubborn to quit. There's more to it than that. He paused. Drake has it out for you. You know that. I'm aware. Do you know why? Elena hesitated. Personal reasons, I assume. His sister applied for SEAL training 6 years ago. Different program. She washed out in the first week. Blamed the instructors. Filed complaints. Made accusations. Harmon's voice was flat. None of them were true. But it ended 3 careers anyway. Elena absorbed this information. So he thinks I'm going to do the same thing. He thinks all women are the same. He's wrong. But being wrong has never stopped a man from doing damage. Harmon leaned closer. Watch yourself during night evolutions. That's when accidents happen. Are you warning me, Master Chief? I'm giving you information. What you do with it is your business. He straightened. Now get back to your team. You've got 4 minutes of rest left. Yes, Master Chief. She walked back toward Reyes and Torres, her mind racing despite her exhaustion. Harmon had just told her something important, not just about Drake's history about his methods. Night evolutions. That's when the attack would come. She had maybe 36 hours to prepare. Wednesday night brought the boat races. Crews of 7 paddling inflatable boats through crushing surf. Waves that could flip a boat. Currents that could drag a man under. Darkness so complete that the stars seemed to press down like a weight. Elena's crew was already short 2 members who had quit that afternoon. 5 people doing the work of 7. Paddle, she screamed over the roar of the waves. Left side dig in, right side hold. A wave hit them broadside. The boat tipped. For one terrible moment, Elena felt herself falling. Then Reyes grabbed her harness and hauled her back in. Not today, he shouted. Not today, Vance. They righted the boat, kept paddling, made it through the surf zone. But Elena had seen something in that moment of chaos. Another boat close to theirs. A face she recognized. Kyle Brennan, watching her, waiting for her to fall. When she didn't, his expression had shifted. Disappointment. And something else. Determination. The night evolution continued for 6 hours. By the end, 3 more boats had capsized. 2 men had been pulled from the water unconscious. 1 had to be resuscitated on the beach. Elena's crew finished 4th. Not first, but alive. That was all that mattered. Thursday morning brought a brief reprieve. Medical checks, hot soup, 10 minutes of actual sitting down. Elena used the time to find Reyes. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. I'm listening. Tonight, something's going to happen. Brennan Drake, they're planning something. Reyes's exhausted face hardened. How do you know? Harmon warned me, and I've been watching Brennan. He's been too calm, too patient. He's waiting for something. What do you need? I need you to watch my back during night evolutions. Not protect me, just watch. Document what you see. Whatever happens, I need witnesses. You're asking me to risk my own training. I'm asking you to help me expose corruption. If they're willing to hurt me, they're willing to hurt anyone who doesn't fit their idea of what a SEAL should be. She met his eyes. This isn't just about me, Reyes. It's about everyone who comes after. He was silent for a long moment. My grandmother used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it costs them something. He nodded slowly. I'll watch. Whatever happens, I'll be there. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive tonight. Thursday night. The final major evolution of Hell Week. Combat swimmer training. Night dive. Limited visibility. Maximum danger. The candidates assembled on the beach as the sun disappeared below the horizon. 31 remained. 31 out of 144. Drake stood at the front of the formation. His face was unreadable. Tonight's evolution is simple, he announced. You will swim 1 mile offshore. You will recover a package from a designated location. You will return to the beach. Time limit is 4 hours. Anyone who fails to return by 2300 is automatically dropped from training. Simple. Except nothing about it was simple. Night dives were the most dangerous evolution in SEAL training. Disorientation, equipment failure, currents that could drag a swimmer miles off course, Even experienced SEALs died on night dives. Elena checked her gear with meticulous attention. Mask, fins, dive knife, emergency beacon. Everything was regulation. Everything was where it should be. But something felt wrong. Her regulator. It looked right. Felt right. But the weight was slightly off. 2 ounces heavier than it should be. Her father had taught her about equipment, about checking and rechecking, about trusting her instincts when something didn't feel right. "Reyes," she breathed. "I need you to look at something." He moved closer, pretending to adjust his own gear. She handed him the regulator. "Feel the weight. Tell me if that's normal." He hefted it. His eyes widened. "That's not normal. There's something inside. Extra weight on the second stage. Can you check it without being obvious?" Reyes's hands moved quickly professionally. He had trained as a dive technician before joining the program. His fingers found the issue in seconds. "Someone modified your first stage. The breathing membrane is compromised. You go below 30 feet, and this thing is going to fail." Elena's blood went cold. "Fail how?" "Free flow. Massive air loss. At depth, you'd have maybe 90 seconds before your tank empties. In the dark, in open water with a mile to swim." He shook his head. "You'd drown before you reached the surface." Torres had drifted close enough to hear. His face went pale. "That's murder," he whispered. "That's actual murder." "That's Drake," Elena said quietly. "And probably Brennan. What are you going to do?" Elena looked at the regulator in Reyes's hands. Evidence. Real physical evidence of attempted murder. But if she reported it now, they would deny everything. Claim she sabotaged her own equipment to create sympathy. Blame a manufacturing defect. Make it disappear. She needed more. "Switch regulators with me," she said to Reyes. "What no, but absolutely not. You're a stronger swimmer. If something goes wrong, you'll have a better chance of making it back. And I need you alive to testify." "Vance, this is insane." "This is necessary." She pressed her own regulator into his hands. "Take it. Keep it safe. That's evidence." "And what are you going to use?" "Yours. It's regulation. It works. I'll be fine." Reyes looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You're the craziest person I've ever met, Vance." "That's not a no." "It's not a no." They switched equipment. The sabotaged regulator disappeared into Reyes's dive bag. 3 minutes later, the evolution began. The water was cold. The darkness was absolute. Elena swam through black nothing, following her compass, counting her strokes, forcing her exhausted body to move. Around her, other swimmers spread out in the darkness. She couldn't see them, could barely hear the bubbles from their regulators. She was alone in the ocean at night. And somewhere out there, Brennan was hunting her. 20 minutes into the swim, Elena heard it. A different pattern of movement in the water. Someone approaching from her left. Moving too fast. Too purposefully. She stopped swimming. Floated motionless in the dark. The movement stopped too. Waiting. Elena's hand moved slowly to her dive knife. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "In the dark, patience wins. The one who moves first reveals their position. Wait. Breathe. Let them make the mistake." She waited. 30 seconds, 45, a full minute. Then the attack came. Hands grabbed her from behind. Strong hands, male hands, pulling her backward, trying to rip her mask off, trying to tear her regulator from her mouth. Elena didn't panic, didn't thrash. She went limp for exactly 1 second, long enough for the attacker to adjust their grip, and then she moved. Her elbow drove backward into what felt like a stomach, Her heel kicked back into a knee. She twisted, spun, and drove her palm upward. Contact. Solid contact with a face. The hands released her. A figure spiraled away into the darkness. Elena didn't chase. She grabbed her light, clicked it on for just a moment, long enough to see a trail of blood in the water, long enough to see a flash of movement heading toward the surface. Then she shut the light off and kept swimming. 30 minutes later, she reached the recovery point, found the package, turned around, and swam back. When she emerged on the beach at 22:47, 13 minutes before the deadline, Drake was waiting. His face was unreadable. "You made it, Vance." "Yes, Petty Officer." "Any problems during the swim?" "None worth mentioning, Petty Officer." They stared at each other in the moonlight, both knowing, neither speaking. "Get to the medical tent. Hot fluids, blanket, standard recovery protocol." "Yes, Petty Officer." She walked away without looking back. In the medical tent, she found Reyes already there. He had finished third overall. His eyes met hers with a question. She nodded slightly. He exhaled with relief. Torres arrived 10 minutes later. Then Walsh, the female candidate, who had joined as a replacement, stumbling in on legs that barely worked. Brennan arrived last among the survivors. His face was swollen. His nose looked broken. He wouldn't meet Elena's eyes. 28 candidates had made it through the night swim. 3 more had quit. And Kyle Brennan had a face that told its own story. Elena sat in the medical tent, drinking hot soup, feeling her body slowly remember what warmth felt like. She had survived. But more than that, she had evidence now. The sabotaged regulator, Brennan's injuries, the timeline. The conspiracy was starting to leave traces, and traces could become proof. Friday morning came like a blessing from a god Elena wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Hell Week was over. 26 candidates remained. 26 out of 144. Elena Vance, Jake Reyes, Torres, Walsh, 22 others who had refused to quit when their bodies begged them to. They stood on the beach as the sun rose over Coronado. Shattered. Broken. Alive. Master Chief Harmon walked the line handing out brown shirts, the symbol of Hell Week survival. The first real milestone on the path to the Trident. When he reached Elena, he paused. "Congratulations, Vance." "Thank you, Master Chief. You did something I've never seen before." "What's that?" "You made it through Hell Week while someone was actively trying to kill you." His voice dropped. "That takes a special kind of strength." "I had help. You had allies. That's not the same as help. You built that alliance. You earned that trust." He pressed the brown shirt into her hands. "Don't let them destroy what you've built." "I don't intend to." He moved on to the next candidate. Elena held the brown shirt against her chest. It smelled like salt and sweat and victory. But as she looked across the beach, she saw Drake standing alone near the equipment shed. His face was dark. His posture was rigid. The battle was won. But the war was far from over. And somewhere behind Drake, in the shadows of the administrative building, Elena saw a figure she recognized from photographs. Admiral Richard Brennan, Kyle's father, watching her with eyes that promised consequences. The next phase was about to begin. Admiral Richard Brennan didn't leave after Hell Week ended. Elena noticed him everywhere over the next 3 days. In the administrative building, walking the perimeter during morning PT, sitting in the back of briefing rooms where he had no official reason to be, watching. Always watching. "He's not here by accident," Reyes said during a stolen moment between evolutions. Admirals don't hang around training facilities for no reason. His son almost killed me, Elena replied quietly. Now he's making sure the job gets finished. Then we need to move faster. The evidence isn't enough yet. We have a sabotaged regulator and Brennan's broken nose. That's circumstantial. Drake will say I damaged my own equipment. Brennan will say he hit his face on a rock. She shook her head. We need something undeniable. Like what? Like someone talking, on record, where they can't take it back. Dive phase began the following Monday. 26 candidates had survived Hell Week. 24 remained after the weekend, 2 having quietly packed their bags and disappeared without explanation. The pressure was different now, less about physical endurance, more about technical precision. One mistake underwater could kill you. One moment of panic could end everything. Elena excelled. Her childhood in Montana had prepared her for this in ways the instructors couldn't have predicted. She had learned to hold her breath, swimming under ice on frozen lakes. She had developed lung capacity that exceeded most men by diving for lost fishing gear in glacier-fed rivers. The cold didn't bother her. The pressure didn't break her. The darkness felt like home. Vance, Master Chief Harmon called out after a particularly grueling pool evolution. You just set a new record for underwater distance. 412 feet on a single breath. Thank you, Master Chief. The previous record was 391, held for 11 years. He studied her with something approaching curiosity. Where did you learn to do that? Montana Master Chief. Cold water and stubborn pride. That's a hell of a combination. She allowed herself a small smile. My father used to say the same thing. Drake stood at the edge of the pool, watching this exchange. His face was carefully blank, but Elena could read the tension in his shoulders. She was supposed to be failing by now. She was supposed to be broken, washed out a cautionary tale about women who didn't know their place. Instead, she was setting records. That night, Elena found a note in her locker. No signature. No identifying marks. Just 6 words written in careful block letters. Drake. Meeting Brennan tonight. Equipment shed. 2300. She stared at the note for a long moment. It could be a trap. Probably was a trap. Someone trying to lure her into a compromising situation. But it could also be an opportunity. She found Torres in the chow hall. I need your help with something. Name it. I need you to be somewhere tonight, watching, recording if possible. Torres set down his fork. This about Drake. This about ending Drake. He was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Tell me where and when. At 22:45, Elena positioned herself behind a supply container 50 meters from the equipment shed. Torres was on the opposite side, closer to the building, his phone ready to record through a gap in the ventilation slats. At 22:58, Drake arrived. Alone. He looked around carefully, then entered the shed. At 23:03, a second figure appeared. Not Kyle Brennan. Elena recognized the silhouette immediately. Admiral Richard Brennan himself, moving with the careful precision of a man who didn't want to be seen. He entered the shed. The door closed behind him. Elena couldn't hear the conversation, but Torres could. His position gave him a clear audio line through the ventilation. 15 minutes later, the Admiral emerged. Then Drake. They went separate directions without speaking. Elena waited until they were gone, then made her way to Torres's position. Did you get it? Torres's face was pale in the moonlight. I got it, and Vance, you're going to want to hear this. They found a secure location, an unused storage room in the medical building, and Torres played the recording. Admiral Brennan's voice came through clearly. The situation has become unacceptable. She should have been eliminated during Hell Week. Drake. Sir, the night swim was supposed to handle it. Something went wrong. Something went wrong because you're incompetent. My son came back with a broken nose. Now she has evidence. The regulator is gone, sir. I disposed of it personally. You disposed of nothing. Her teammate has it. Reyes. He's been carrying it in his personal gear since Hell Week. Silence. Then Drake. How do you know that? Because I have people watching Petty Officer. Unlike you, I don't leave things to chance. What do you want me to do? I want you to finish this. Properly. During the combat dive evolution next week, make it look like nitrogen narcosis, disorientation at depth, a tragic training accident. Sir, if she dies during training, there will be an investigation. There will be an investigation that finds exactly what I tell it to find. I've been handling investigations since before you were born. Just make sure it happens. The recording ended. Elena sat in silence. Her hands were steady, but something cold had settled in her chest. She had suspected. She had known on some level. But hearing it, hearing an admiral of the United States Navy calmly ordering her death, was something else entirely. That's conspiracy to commit murder, Torres said quietly. That's career ending. That's prison. That's also an admiral's word against a recording made by a trainee. You know how that goes. So, what do we do? Elena thought about her father, about his letters, about the lessons he had tried to teach her before he died. When you're outgunned, don't fight fair. Fight smart. Make them destroy themselves. We don't do anything, she said finally. Not yet. We wait. We gather more. And when the time comes, we make sure they can't bury it. And what about the combat dive evolution? They're planning to kill you. Let them plan. Her voice was cold. I'll be ready. The days leading up to the combat dive evolution passed with agonizing slowness. Elena trained. She studied. She memorized every protocol, every safety procedure, every possible point of failure. If Drake was going to try to kill her underwater, she needed to know every variable. Reyes helped when he could. Torres watched and documented. Walsh, who had become quietly loyal since Elena had helped her during Hell Week, started positioning herself as a witness to Drake's behavior. He's getting nervous, Walsh reported after a classroom session. I saw him talking to Kyle Brennan outside the admin building. They both looked scared. Scared is good, Elena said. Scared people make mistakes. Scared people also do desperate things. That too. The night before the combat dive, Elena received a visitor. Senior Chief Hannah Cole, the woman who had warned her weeks ago about Drake's history. She appeared at Elena's quarters, after lights out, moving with the quiet efficiency of someone who had spent years not being noticed. We need to talk, Cole said. About what's going to happen tomorrow. Cole sat down on the edge of Elena's bunk. I've been watching. I know about the recording. I know about the sabotaged equipment. And I know what Admiral Brennan is planning. How? Because I've been investigating Marcus Drake for 3 years, long before you got here. Cole's eyes were hard. He's done this before Vance. Not murder, not quite, but he's destroyed careers, driven out anyone who threatened his position, women especially, but not only women, anyone who didn't fit his idea of what a SEAL should be. Elena absorbed this. Why are you telling me now? Because tomorrow he's going to try to kill you, and I can't let that happen. Cole reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. This is a secondary emergency beacon, military grade, waterproof to 500 feet. If something goes wrong during the dive, anything at all, you activate this. I'll have people in the water within 90 seconds. You have people positioned already. I have people who believe the same things I believe, that this institution is being corrupted from within, that Drake is a symptom of a larger disease. She pressed the beacon into Elena's hand. Take it. Use it if you have to. And when this is over, when you have enough evidence to bring them down, I'll be there to back you up. Why are you risking this for me? Cole was quiet for a moment. My daughter wanted to be a SEAL. 10 years ago, before any program made it possible. She applied anyway, submitted her packet, got laughed out of every office she walked into. Her voice tightened. She's a civilian now, works in a bank, hates every minute of it, but she had something, that same fire I see in you, and they took it from her before she even got a chance. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be successful. Cole stood. Tomorrow, you survive. Whatever it takes, you survive. And then you tear down every single person who tried to stop you. She left without another word. Elena held the beacon in her hand, feeling its weight. Another ally. Another piece of the network she was building. Her father had been right. You couldn't fight power alone. But you could fight it with people who believed in something bigger than themselves. The combat dive evolution began at 0600. 22 candidates. Full combat rigs. Night vision equipment. Simulated weapons. The objective: infiltrate a mock enemy facility via underwater approach, complete a reconnaissance mission, and extract without detection. Standard training. Except for Elena, nothing about it would be standard. Drake ran the briefing personally. His eyes found Elena's several times during the presentation. Each time his expression was carefully neutral. Each time something cold moved behind his gaze. This evolution will test everything you've learned, he said. Underwater navigation, combat swimming, tactical awareness. One mistake and you fail. One moment of panic and you drown. He paused. Questions? No one spoke. Good. Gear up. We launch in 30 minutes. Elena moved through her pre-dive checks with methodical precision. Mask, fins, dive computer, primary regulator, secondary regulator. She checked each piece 3 times, looking for any sign of tampering. Everything was clean. That worried her more than finding something wrong. Drake was smart enough to know she'd check her equipment, which meant whatever he had planned would happen during the dive itself. Vance. Reyes appeared at her side, already geared up. You ready? As I'll ever be. I'll be within visual range the whole time. Anything goes wrong, I'm there. No. You stay with your team. Complete the mission. If something happens to me and you're nearby, they'll say you were involved. That's stupid. That's strategic. I need you clean for what comes after. He stared at her. You're planning something. I'm planning to survive. Everything else is secondary. The water was cold and dark. Elena descended through blackness, following the compass heading she'd memorized, counting her kicks to track distance. Around her, other divers moved in formation shadows in the void, visible only by the faint glow of their dive computers. The mock facility was 600 meters offshore, anchored to the seafloor at 40 feet. The approach required navigating through a kelp forest around a rock formation and into a narrow channel that simulated a harbor entrance. Elena was in the lead element. 4 divers total. She was point. The first sign of trouble came at the 200-meter mark. Her dive computer flickered. Once, twice. Then the display scrambled into meaningless static. Sabotage. Electronic interference. Someone had compromised her navigation equipment. Without her dive computer, she had no way to track depth time or direction. She was swimming blind. Standard protocol: abort the dive. Surface, report the equipment failure. But surfacing now would mean failure. Drake would claim she had panicked. Admiral Brennan would say she wasn't ready for combat operations. They would use this to wash her out. Elena made a different choice. She handed the lead to the diver behind her, a solid operator named Martinez, and dropped to the rear of the formation. From there, she could follow the other's navigation while figuring out her next move. The kelp forest closed around them. Visibility dropped to less than 10 feet. Elena could barely see the fins of the diver ahead of her. That's when she felt it. A hand on her ankle, pulling her backward. Down. She didn't panic. Didn't thrash. She turned, trying to see her attacker, but the kelp was too thick, the water too dark. The hand pulled harder. She felt herself sinking. 20 feet. 30. The pressure built in her ears. Her training took over. She reached down, found the fingers gripping her ankle, and bent them backward with precise, brutal force. She felt something pop. The grip released. Elena kicked hard, swimming upward, breaking through the kelp canopy. Above her, she could see the faint glow of the other divers' computers. She wasn't that far from the formation. She swam toward them, her heart pounding, her breathing deliberately slow. But before she could rejoin the group, she saw it. Below her, sinking toward the seafloor, a figure. Not swimming. Not moving. Just falling through the dark water like a stone. Her attacker. Whoever had grabbed her was now in trouble. Elena hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then she dove. Her father's letters came back to her as she descended. A SEAL never leaves anyone behind. Not teammates, not enemies, no one. That's what separates us from the people we fight. She caught up to the sinking diver at 60 feet, grabbed his harness, looked at his face through the mask. Kyle Brennan. His eyes were wide with panic. His regulator had come loose, probably during the struggle, and he was holding his breath, cheeks bulging seconds from drowning. Elena didn't think. She pulled her secondary regulator from its clip and shoved it into his mouth. Pushed the purge button. Watched him suck in air like a dying man. Then she started swimming upward, dragging him with her. Brennan was heavy. Dead weight. His buoyancy compensator had failed or been disabled, and he was sinking faster than she could swim. Elena's lungs burned. Her muscles screamed. The pressure squeezed her skull like a vice. She kicked harder. 40 feet. 30. 20. At 15 feet, she hit the safety stop. Protocol demanded 3 minutes at this depth to prevent decompression sickness. But Brennan was barely conscious, and she didn't know how much air was left in her tank. She gave it 60 seconds. Then she surfaced. The support boat was 200 meters away. Elena raised her hand, signaling distress. The boat turned immediately. 3 minutes later, they were both being hauled aboard. Brennan was coughing, gasping, spitting seawater. He looked at Elena with an expression she couldn't read, confusion, maybe, or something else. "You saved me," he choked out. "Why?" Elena didn't answer. She just sat on the deck of the support boat, breathing, letting her heart rate slowly return to normal. "You tried to kill me," she said finally. "And I saved your life anyway. Remember that." Drake was waiting on the beach when the boat returned. His face was pale. His hands were clenched at his sides. Whatever he had planned for the combat dive, it hadn't gone this way. "Medical evaluation for both divers," Master Chief Harmon ordered. "Full debrief in 1 hour." "I want to know what happened out there," Drake said. His voice was tight. "There will be an investigation." "There certainly will," Harmon replied. His tone carried something Elena hadn't heard before, suspicion directed at Drake. A very thorough investigation. In the medical tent, Elena sat on a cot, while a corpsman checked her vitals. Her dive computer sat on the table beside her, still displaying static. Equipment malfunction, the corpsman noted. I'll log it for the investigation. Make sure you do. Document everything. You okay, Vance? You seem calm for someone who just had a near-death experience. I've had a lot of practice. 2 cots over Kyle Brennan lay staring at the ceiling. His father hadn't appeared yet, but Elena knew he would. An admiral's son nearly drowning during training. That demanded answers. She stood, walked over to Brennan's cot. We need to talk. I don't have anything to say to you. You tried to pull me down in that kelp forest. Your equipment failed. I saved your life. She leaned closer. I could have let you drown. Nobody would have known. Dark water. Equipment malfunction. Tragic accident. Sound familiar? Brennan's face went white. Your father and Drake have been planning my death for weeks. I have recordings. I have evidence. And now I have you alive because I chose not to be like them. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know something else. She straightened. When this all falls apart, and it will, you're going to have a choice. You can go down with them, or you can tell the truth and maybe salvage something from the wreck of your career. My father will never let you. Your father can't protect you from this. Not anymore. The only person who can protect you now is you. She turned to walk away. Think about it, Brennan. Think about what kind of man you want to be. She left him lying there, staring at nothing, his world crumbling around him. The debrief lasted 3 hours. Elena told her version of events. So did Brennan. So did every other diver who had been in the water. The stories didn't match. Elena reported that she had been grabbed from behind and pulled down. Brennan claimed he had been trying to help her after seeing her in distress. The other divers reported seeing nothing. The kelp forest had hidden everything. But the evidence told a different story. Brennan's gloves had fibers consistent with Elena's dive suit on them. His equipment showed signs of tampering, the same kind of tampering that had disabled Elena's dive computer. And the pattern of his injuries, the dislocated fingers, the bruising on his arms, matched defensive wounds, not rescue attempts. Master Chief Harmon reviewed everything with careful attention. There will be a full investigation, he announced at the end of the debrief. Until that investigation is complete, both Seaman Vance and Seaman Brennan are suspended from training evolutions. Master Chief, Drake interjected, I recommend that Vance be removed from the program entirely. Her reckless behavior endangered Petty Officer Drake. Harmon's voice was cold. You are also under investigation. Until further notice, you are relieved of training duties. The room went silent. Drake's face cycled through shock, anger, and something that looked almost like fear. On what grounds? On grounds that will be explained to you by NCIS when they arrive tomorrow morning. Harmon stood. This debrief is concluded. Everyone is dismissed. NCIS, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the people who investigated serious crimes within the Navy. Murder, espionage, corruption. Elena walked out of the briefing room into the night air. Her body ached. Her mind was racing. But something had shifted in her chest. For weeks, she had been fighting alone, gathering evidence, building her case, waiting for the moment when she could strike. That moment had arrived. She found Reyes waiting outside. NCIS, he said quietly. That's big. That's what we needed. What happens now? Elena looked up at the stars over Coronado. Somewhere out there, her father was watching. She was sure of it. Now, she said, we finish this. Across the compound, Admiral Richard Brennan was making a phone call. His voice was low and urgent. His face was the color of ash. We have a problem, he said into the phone. A serious problem. But he couldn't know that Elena Vance had been building toward this moment since the day she walked through those gates. And she wasn't going to stop until every single person who had tried to destroy her was held accountable. NCIS arrived at 0700 the next morning. 2 agents in civilian clothes walked through the main gate like they owned the place. The lead agent was a woman in her 40s. Sharp eyes, silver-streaked hair, the kind of face that had seen too many lies to believe anything without proof. Her name was Special Agent Diana Mercer, and she had been investigating corruption in military training programs for 15 years. Elena watched them from across the compound. Her suspension from training meant she had nothing to do but wait. Wait and wonder what would happen next. She didn't have to wonder long. "Seaman Vance." A young petty officer approached her. "Special Agent Mercer wants to see you. Conference room B. Now." Elena walked into the conference room expecting an interrogation. What she got was something different. Mercer sat alone at the table, a thick folder open in front of her. She didn't stand when Elena entered. Didn't smile. Just gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down, Seaman Vance. We have a lot to discuss." Elena sat. Her hands rested flat on the table. Calm. Controlled. "I've been reading your file," Mercer said. "Interesting background. Montana ranch girl. Father was a SEAL killed in action. You broke records in basic training. First woman admitted to full Bud S. And now you're at the center of what looks like a very ugly conspiracy." "I didn't create this situation, Agent Mercer." "No, but you've been documenting it." Mercer pulled a tablet from her bag. "We recovered these files from a cloud server registered to Seaman Jake Reyes. Audio recordings, video footage, equipment analysis reports, witness statements." She looked up. "You've been building a case." "I've been trying to survive." "You've been doing more than that." Mercer leaned forward. "Let me be direct with you, Seaman Vance. I've been investigating Petty Officer Marcus Drake for 2 years. Every time I get close evidence disappears. Witnesses recant. The investigation gets shut down from above." She paused. "Do you understand what I'm telling you? You're telling me someone powerful has been protecting him. I'm telling you Admiral Richard Brennan has been protecting him. And now you've given me something I've never had before, evidence that connects them directly." Elena's pulse quickened, but her voice stayed level. "The recording. You heard it. I heard an admiral ordering the murder of a trainee. I heard a petty officer agreeing to carry it out, and I heard both of them discussing previous cover-ups." Mercer closed the folder. "This is the break I've been waiting for. But I need more. I need testimony. I need someone on the inside willing to go on record." "I'm willing." "I know you are, but your testimony alone isn't enough. You're the victim. A defense attorney would tear you apart, bias, grudge, ambition, take your pick." Mercer stood, walked to the window. "I need someone else. Someone who was part of the conspiracy. Someone who can corroborate everything from the inside." Elena understood immediately. "Kyle Brennan." "Kyle Brennan." Mercer turned back. "He's scared. His father is pressuring him to stay quiet. But he's also facing serious charges: assault, attempted murder, conspiracy. If he cooperates, I can offer him a deal. Reduced charges. No prison time. A chance to start over. And if he doesn't cooperate, then he goes down with his father. 20 years minimum. His naval career is over either way, but the question is whether he spends those years in a cell or building something new." Elena thought about the moment in the medical tent. The look on Brennan's face when she told him she had saved his life. The confusion. The shame. Something had cracked in him that day. "Let me talk to him," she said. "That's not protocol." "I don't care about protocol. I care about getting this done." Elena leaned forward. "Brennan doesn't trust authority. He's been raised by a man who uses authority as a weapon. But he does understand one thing: when someone saves your life, you owe them. Let me use that. Mercer studied her for a long moment. You're asking me to let the victim negotiate with her attacker. I'm asking you to let me finish what I started. Silence stretched between them. 1 hour, Mercer said finally. Supervised, recorded, and if he lawyers up, we're done. He won't lawyer up. He knows a lawyer means his father takes control again. You're pretty confident about reading people Vance. My father taught me. Elena stood. 1 hour is all I need. Kyle Brennan sat in a holding room that wasn't quite a cell. His uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were red. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. When Elena walked in, he flinched. What are you doing here? Trying to save your life. Again. She sat down across from him. The table between them was bare. No files. No recordings visible. Just two people who had been trying to destroy each other for weeks. NCIS has everything, Elena said. The recordings, the equipment analysis, testimony from witnesses who saw your father meeting with Drake. They have enough to put you away for 20 years. I didn't do anything. You tried to drown me during the combat dive. I was trying to help. Stop, Elena's voice was sharp. Just stop. I felt your hands on my ankle. I felt you pulling me down. I saw your face when I saved you. She leaned forward. You know what you did. And I know what you did. The only question now is what happens next. Brennan said nothing. His hands trembled on the table. Your father is going to prison, Elena continued. That's not a possibility, it's a certainty. The evidence is too strong. The recording is too clear. He ordered my murder and there's no way to spin that. My father was protecting the program, protecting the standards. Your father was protecting his ego, and Drake, and a system that lets men like them destroy anyone who threatens their power. Elena's voice softened slightly. But you're not them, Brennan. Not yet. You've done terrible things, but you haven't crossed the line they crossed. You can still come back from this. How? Tell the truth, all of it. Everything your father told you to do. Everything Drake told you to do. Every conversation, every plan, every moment you knew something was wrong and did it anyway. If I do that, I'm betraying my family. Your family betrayed you first. They turned you into a weapon. They aimed you at me and pulled the trigger, and when it didn't work, they were going to let you take the fall. Brennan's head snapped up. What are you talking about? Elena pulled out her phone, played a recording she hadn't shared with Mercer yet. Admiral Brennan's voice speaking to Drake. If the investigation gets too close, Kyle becomes the sacrificial lamb. He's young, impressionable. We'll say he acted alone. Misguided loyalty. The court will give him a slap on the wrist and this all goes away. The color drained from Brennan's face. He was going to throw you away, Elena said quietly. Like garbage, like nothing, because that's what you are to him, a tool, a legacy he can use and discard. No, that's not he wouldn't. He already has. The only reason you're not already facing charges alone is because I gave NCIS the full picture. I'm the one who made sure they knew this goes all the way to the top. She paused. I saved you twice, Brennan. Once in the water, once from your own father. The question is whether you're going to save yourself. Brennan sat in silence for a long moment. His breathing was ragged. His hands had stopped trembling, but something in his eyes had broken. What do you want me to do? Tell the truth, on record, everything you know. And then what? And then you live with it, like the rest of us. He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since they had met. Why are you doing this? I tried to kill you. Why would you help me? Elena thought about the question, thought about her father's letters, thought about the kind of person she wanted to be. Because someone has to break the cycle, she said. Someone has to be better than the people who came before. And maybe if I show you that's possible, you'll show someone else someday. Brennan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed. Okay, he said. I'll talk. The formal interview lasted 4 hours. Kyle Brennan told NCIS everything. The conversations with his father, the meetings with Drake, the plan to sabotage Elena's equipment, the decision to attack her during the combat dive. Every detail, every moment, every choice that had led them to this room. Elena watched through a one-way mirror. Senior Chief Cole stood beside her. "You did something remarkable today," Cole said quietly. "I did what needed to be done." "No, you did more than that. You gave him a chance to be human again. Most people in your position would have wanted revenge." Elena thought about that. "Revenge doesn't change anything. It just creates more victims." "Your father taught you well." "My father taught me to fight. I taught myself when to stop." The interview ended at 1400. Mercer emerged from the room looking tired but satisfied. "We have enough," she said. "Brennan's testimony combined with the recordings and physical evidence gives us everything we need. I'm issuing arrest warrants for Admiral Richard Brennan and Petty Officer Marcus Drake." "When? Now?" Mercer's eyes were hard. "I've waited 2 years for this moment. I'm not waiting another minute." The arrest of Admiral Richard Brennan sent shockwaves through the entire naval special warfare community. Elena wasn't there when it happened. Mercer had insisted she stay in the conference room for her own protection, but Torres brought her updates in real time. They found him in the admin building. He tried to make a phone call probably to some JAG friend, but Mercer shut it down. He kept saying there had been a mistake, that this was all a misunderstanding. And Drake tried to run, made it about 200 meters before the MPs caught him. He was screaming about how he was a patriot, how he was protecting the teams from people who didn't belong. Elena absorbed this information. She felt something, satisfaction maybe, or relief, but it was distant, muffled, like watching a storm through thick glass. "It's over," Torres said. "You won." "It's not over. Not yet." She was right. At 1630, Master Chief Harmon called an emergency formation. Every candidate, every instructor, every support staff member on the compound was required to attend. Elena stood in the back row. She had considered staying away. Her suspension was technically still in effect, but something told her she needed to be there, needed to see this through. Harmon stood at the front of the formation, his face grave. "I'm going to be brief," he said. "Today, 2 members of this command were arrested by NCIS on charges of conspiracy attempted murder and conduct unbecoming. Admiral Richard Brennan and Petty Officer First Class Marcus Drake are currently in federal custody awaiting trial." Murmurs rippled through the formation. Harmon let them continue for a moment, then raised his hand for silence. "These arrests are the result of an investigation that revealed serious misconduct within our training program. For years, certain individuals have used their positions to target and eliminate candidates they considered undesirable. This ends today." He paused, his eyes finding Elena in the back row. Seaman Elena Vance was one of their targets. She was subjected to harassment, sabotage, and multiple attempts on her life. She responded by doing exactly what we train our operators to do. She gathered intelligence-built alliances and executed a strategic plan that exposed corruption at the highest levels. Harmon stepped forward. Seaman Vance, front and center. Elena walked through the formation. 100 eyes on her. 100 judgments being revised in real time. She stopped in front of Harmon, came to attention. "Your suspension is lifted effective immediately. You will resume training with your class tomorrow morning. He extended his hand. Welcome back, Seaman Vance. She shook his hand. Her grip was firm. Her eyes were dry. Thank you, Master Chief. Don't thank me. You earned this. Every bit of it. The formation was dismissed. Candidates dispersed across the compound, talking in hushed voices about what had just happened. The world had shifted under their feet, and none of them quite knew how to stand anymore. Reyes found Elena near the chow hall. That was something, he said. That was justice. Finally. You okay? Elena considered the question. I don't know yet. Ask me tomorrow. Fair enough. He paused. Listen, I just wanted to say what you did for Brennan, giving him a chance to testify instead of just letting him burn. That took something. It took remembering that he was a person, even after everything he did. Not everyone would have remembered that. My father would have. She looked up at the sky. The sun was setting over Coronado, painting everything gold and red. He wrote me a letter once about a prisoner they captured in Iraq, a man who had killed 2 of his teammates. My father was the one who stopped the others from executing him on the spot. Why? Because he said the measure of a warrior isn't what they do to their enemies. It's what they choose not to do. Elena smiled slightly. I didn't understand that when I was a kid. I do now. That night, Elena received a phone call. The number was blocked, but she answered anyway. Seaman Vance. The voice was female. Unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Captain Sarah Mitchell. I'm the commanding officer of SEAL Team 3. I've been following your situation with great interest. Elena's heart rate increased slightly. How can I help you, Captain? I think the question is how I can help you. There was a pause. You've done something that very few people have the courage to do. You've exposed corruption while still in training, knowing full well that it could destroy your career before it started. That takes a special kind of integrity. I did what needed to be done, ma'am. That's exactly what I'm talking about. What needs to be done. That's the mentality we need in the teams. Not ego, not politics. Just the mission. Another pause. When you graduate, and I have no doubt that you will, I want you on my team. Elena's breath caught. Captain, I'm honored, but don't answer now. Focus on finishing your training. But know that when you're done, there's a place waiting for you. A place where your talents will be valued and your integrity will be protected. Thank you, Captain. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep being exactly who you are. That's all I ask. The line went dead. Elena sat in the darkness of her room, processing what had just happened. A captain of a SEAL team had personally called to recruit her, before she had even graduated, before she had proven herself in the field. But she had proven herself, in ways that mattered more than any training evolution. She had proven that she couldn't be broken. The next morning, Elena returned to training. The other candidates looked at her differently now, some with respect, some with wariness, a few with something that looked almost like awe. Walsh fell into step beside her on the way to morning PT. How does it feel? How does what feel, being a legend? Elena laughed. The sound surprised her. I'm not a legend. I'm just someone who refused to quit. That's what legends are, Vance. People who refuse to quit when everyone else tells them to. The training was hard. Harder than before in some ways. The instructors who remained were determined to prove that standards hadn't slipped, that the program was still the most demanding in the world. Elena embraced it. Every evolution, every challenge, every moment of pain and exhaustion. She had come too far to slow down now. Weeks passed. The scandal faded from the headlines. Admiral Brennan and Drake awaited trial. Kyle Brennan, true to his deal with NCIS, had been given a general discharge and was starting over somewhere in the civilian world. Elena didn't know if she would ever see him again. She hoped in some small way that he would find a way to become the man he could have been if his father hadn't twisted him into something else. The final phase of training arrived. Combat tactics, live fire exercises, mission planning, everything building toward the moment when they would either earn their tridents or wash out trying. Elena excelled at all of it. Her scores were among the highest in the class. Her tactical instincts, honed by years of hunting in Montana and months of fighting for survival in this very program, gave her an edge that the instructors couldn't ignore. But it was the leadership evaluations that set her apart. Vance doesn't just complete the mission, Harmon wrote in her file. She makes everyone around her better. She builds teams. She inspires confidence. She demonstrates the kind of quiet, competent leadership that defines the best operators in the community. The evaluation was classified. Elena never saw it. But the other candidates did see what she was capable of. They saw her volunteer for the hardest assignments. They saw her help struggling teammates without being asked. They saw her refuse to cut corners even when no one was watching. And slowly, one by one, they stopped seeing her as the woman who had invaded their space. They started seeing her as a SEAL. 2 weeks before graduation, Reyes found Elena on the beach. She was sitting alone, watching the Pacific, the same spot where she had sat so many times before, talking to her father's photograph, promising him she would make it through. "Big day coming up," Reyes said, sitting down beside her. "Yeah? You nervous?" "No." She paused. "Maybe a little. You're going to get your trident. You know that, right? There's no way they don't pin you." "I know." She pulled out her father's photograph. The man in dress blues holding a baby girl. "I just wish he could be there." Reyes looked at the photograph. "He looks like you." "Everyone says that," she smiled. "He was killed when I was 3. I don't remember his voice. Don't remember what it felt like to be held by him. All I have are letters and photographs and stories that other people tell me." "But you carry him with you." "Every day, every evolution, every time I wanted to quit, and didn't." She touched the photograph gently. "He wrote me a letter before he died. Told me I had more fight in me than I knew. Told me to prove them wrong." She looked up at Reyes. "I've spent my whole life trying to live up to those words." "I think you have." "I hope so." She put the photograph away. "I hope wherever he is, he can see what I've become." They sat in silence for a while, watching the waves. "Vance," Reyes said finally, "whatever happens after graduation, wherever we end up, I want you to know that it's been an honor training beside you." "Same, Reyes, same." He stood, brushed the sand off his uniform. "See you at morning PT." "Where else would I be?" He walked away. Elena stayed on the beach a little longer, watching the sun set over the Pacific. Tomorrow was another day. Another step closer to the goal she had been chasing since she was old enough to understand what her father had sacrificed. She was going to become a Navy SEAL. Nothing and no one was going to stop her now. And somewhere in the darkness, she could almost feel her father watching. Proud. The morning of graduation arrived like every other morning at Coronado, cold, gray, and unforgiving. But for Elena Vance, everything was different. She woke at 0400, 2 hours before she needed to. Her body was too wired to sleep, too aware of what this day meant. 24 weeks. 168 days. Countless moments when she could have quit, should have quit, would have been justified in quitting. She hadn't. And today she would become something her father had been. Something she had dreamed about since she was old enough to understand what a Navy SEAL was. She sat on the edge of her bunk and pulled out his photograph one last time. The man in dress blues holding a baby girl who had no idea what the future held. "I made it, Dad," she whispered. "I actually made it." The photograph didn't answer. It never did. But Elena could swear she felt something, a warmth in her chest, a presence at her shoulder that told her he was there. Watching, waiting to see her finish what she had started. She dressed in her service uniform with meticulous care. Every crease perfect, every button aligned. Her shoes polished to a mirror shine that would have made any drill instructor proud. Then she walked out to face the most important day of her life. The graduation formation assembled at 0800 on the parade ground at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. 17 candidates stood in perfect rows. 17 out of 144 who had started this journey together. 17 men and women who had survived everything the instructors had thrown at them. Elena stood in the front row, the position of honor reserved for the candidate with the highest overall scores in the class. She hadn't asked for it, hadn't expected it. But when Master Chief Harmon had informed her yesterday, she had accepted it the same way she accepted everything else, with quiet dignity and absolute focus. "Candidates," Harmon announced, "today you complete the most demanding military training in the world. Today you earn the right to call yourselves Navy SEALs." Elena's heart pounded. Her hands stayed still at her sides. "But before we begin the ceremony, I want to tell you something about what you've accomplished. Not the statistics, not the records you've broken, or the evolutions you've passed. Something more important." He paused, his eyes moving across the formation. "Every single one of you was told you couldn't do this. By someone. At some point. Maybe it was a coach who said you weren't fast enough. A teacher who said you weren't smart enough. A parent who said you were dreaming too big." His voice hardened. "You proved them wrong. Every single one of you. And that's what being a SEAL is really about, not accepting limitations that other people try to put on you." His eyes found Elena. "Some of you faced obstacles that went beyond normal training challenges. Some of you were targeted by people who should have been mentors. Some of you had to fight battles that never should have existed." He straightened. "You won those battles too. And that makes you more than operators. It makes you leaders." The ceremony continued. Speeches from commanding officers. Remarks from visiting admirals, none of whom were named Brennan. A brief history of the SEAL community and its traditions. Elena listened to all of it, but her mind kept drifting to the moment that was coming. The moment when the trident would be pinned to her chest. Finally, Harmon called the first name. "Seaman Marcus Chen." Chen walked forward. Captain Mitchell, who had flown in specifically for this ceremony, pinned the trident to his chest. Chen saluted, returned to formation. One by one, the candidates received their tridents. Each name a victory. Each pin a lifetime of dreams made real. Seaman Jake Reyes. Reyes walked forward, his face tight with emotion. When Mitchell pinned his trident, Elena saw him blink rapidly, holding back tears. He saluted and returned to formation, catching her eye for just a moment. She nodded. He nodded back. "Seaman Elena Vance." The world went quiet. Elena walked forward. Her steps were measured. Her breathing was controlled. But inside, something was breaking open, something that had been locked away since she was 3 years old, standing at her father's funeral, too young to understand why everyone was crying. She stopped in front of Captain Mitchell. Mitchell held up the trident. The eagle, the anchor, the pistol, the trident prongs. The symbol of everything Elena had sacrificed for. "Seaman Vance," Mitchell said, her voice carrying across the parade ground. "You have demonstrated exceptional courage, integrity, and leadership throughout your training. You have overcome obstacles that would have destroyed most people, and you have done so while maintaining the highest standards of conduct and professionalism." She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Elena could hear. "Your father would be proud. I knew him, you know. We served together briefly before Fallujah. He was one of the finest operators I ever met." She paused. "You're better." Elena's breath caught. Mitchell pinned the trident to her chest. The weight of it was small, barely an ounce, but it felt like the weight of her entire life. "Welcome to the Brotherhood, Petty Officer Vance." Petty officer. Not seaman. She had been promoted along with the trident. Elena saluted. Her arm rose with perfect precision, but her eyes were blurring. She blinked once hard, forcing the tears back. "Thank you, ma'am." She returned to formation. The trident pressed against her heart. She was a Navy SEAL. The reception after the ceremony was a blur of handshakes and congratulations. Elena moved through the crowd like a woman in a dream. Fellow graduates clapped her on the shoulder. Instructors who had pushed her to the breaking point shook her hand with genuine respect. Senior officers she had never met approached her to offer their compliments. "Petty Officer Vance." Master Chief Harmon appeared at her elbow. "There's someone who wants to see you. Outside, near the memorial." Elena excused herself from the conversation she was having and walked out of the reception hall. The memorial to fallen SEALs stood at the edge of the parade ground. Names carved in stone. Lives given in service to something greater than themselves. A woman stood there alone. Older, gray-haired, wearing civilian clothes but carrying herself like someone who had once worn a uniform. Elena recognized her immediately. Sarah Ashford, the woman who had given her father's second letter at the start of training. "Mrs. Ashford. It's just Sarah now." The older woman turned. Her eyes were wet. "Look at you. My God, look at you. I didn't know you would be here. I wouldn't have missed it." Sarah stepped closer. "I watched the whole ceremony. Watched them pin that trident on your chest. Watched you hold yourself together even though I know you wanted to fall apart." Elena said nothing. Her throat was too tight. "Your father would have been a mess," Sarah continued, "crying like a baby, embarrassing himself in front of everyone. He was like that, you know. Tough as nails in combat, but the moment something touched his heart, he couldn't hide it." "I wish I remembered him." "I know." Sarah reached into her purse. "That's why I'm here. There's one more thing I need to give you." She pulled out an envelope. Old. Worn at the edges. Her father's handwriting on the front for Ellie on her graduation day. Elena's hands trembled as she took it. "He wrote this the night before his last mission," Sarah said. "Gave it to me with instructions not to open it, not to deliver it, unless you actually made it through." She smiled through her tears. "He knew you would, even then when you were just a baby. He knew." Elena opened the envelope. Inside was a single page covered in her father's careful script. She read it standing there next to the memorial with Sarah Ashford watching. "My beautiful girl. If you're reading this, you've done something extraordinary. You've become a Navy SEAL. You've joined a brotherhood that most people can't even imagine, let alone survive. I want you to know something. I'm not proud of you because you passed the training. I'm not proud of you because you earned a trident. I'm proud of you because you're the kind of person who would try. Most people play it safe. They accept the limitations other people put on them. They tell themselves that some dreams are too big, some goals are too hard, some obstacles are too high. Not you. You've never been that person. Even when you were a baby, you had this look in your eyes like you were daring the world to try to stop you. The world tried. I'm sure of it. People told you that you couldn't. People told you that you shouldn't. People tried to break you, bend, make you into something smaller than you are. They failed. And now you're standing where I once stood, wearing the same symbol I once wore, part of the same family I was proud to serve. I wish I could be there to see it. I wish I could hold you one more time like I did when you were small enough to fit in my arms. I wish I could tell you in person how much you mean to me, how much I love you, how much I believe in everything you are and everything you're going to become. But I can't. So I'll say it here in these words and trust that somehow you'll feel me with you. Elena, my daughter, my pride, my legacy. You have more fight in you than anyone I've ever known. Use it wisely. Use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. Use it to stand up when others want to stay down. Use it to be the warrior I always knew you could be. I love you. I'm proud of you. And wherever I am, I'm watching. Always. Dad. Elena folded the letter. Her face was wet. She hadn't noticed when she started crying. Sarah Ashford put an arm around her shoulders. He was right, you know, about everything. I know. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. I know. They stood together in silence, two women connected by a man who had been gone for 16 years, but whose presence still filled every moment. The reception continued for another 2 hours. Elena returned, eventually, her eyes dry, her composure restored. But something had changed in her. Something had settled. She had her father's blessing, written in his own hand, delivered from beyond the grave. Nothing could take that away from her. Reyes found her near the end of the reception. I heard you got a letter from your dad. Word travels fast. Harmon told me. He wanted to make sure someone checked on you. Reyes studied her face. You okay? Better than okay. She touched the trident on her chest. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. SEAL Team 3. That's what Mitchell told me. You're joining her unit. That's the plan. What about you? Team 7. East Coast. He smiled slightly. Opposite ends of the country. We'll still be brothers. Yeah. He extended his hand. We will. She shook it. Then impulsively she pulled him into a hug. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. For believing in me when you had no reason to. For watching my back when it would have been easier to look away. For being the ally I needed when I needed one most. You would have made it without me. Maybe. But I'm glad I didn't have to find out. They separated. Torres and Walsh approached both wearing their own tridents, both grinning like kids on Christmas morning. Group photo, Torres announced. The 4 of us, before we all ship out to different corners of the world. They stood together while someone snapped the picture. 4 SEALs who had survived Hell Week together, who had faced down a conspiracy together, who had become family in the forge of shared struggle. Elena knew she would carry that photo for the rest of her life. The weeks after graduation passed quickly. Elena completed her advanced training, qualified on every weapon system, passed every evaluation with scores that made instructors double-check their records. She was assigned to SEAL Team 3 just as Captain Mitchell had promised. Her team was tight-knit professional, and after a brief period of observation, completely accepting of her presence. I don't care what's between your legs, the platoon chief told her on her first day. I care whether you can do the job. Mitchell says you can. Prove her right, and we're good. Elena proved her right. Her first deployment came 4 months after graduation, a counter-terrorism operation in the Horn of Africa, high-value target extraction, exactly the kind of mission she had trained her entire life for. The night before they shipped out, Elena sat in her quarters and wrote a letter, not to her mother she had called her yesterday, said everything that needed to be said. This letter was for someone else. Kyle, I know we haven't spoken since your testimony. I don't know if you even want to hear from me, but I'm deploying tomorrow and there are things I want to say before I go. I don't forgive you for what you did. What you tried to do to me was wrong. The choices you made were your choices, and you have to live with them. But I don't hate you either. I understand how you became who you were, how your father shaped you, how the pressure twisted you, how easy it is to lose yourself when you're trying to live up to someone else's expectations. I hope you find a way forward. I hope you build something good with the second chance you were given. I hope someday you can look in the mirror and see the man you want to be, not the man your father tried to make you. That's all. Be better than you were. That's all any of us can do. Elena. She sealed the letter, addressed it, put it in the outgoing mail. She didn't expect a response. She didn't need one. Some things you do because they're right, not because they're rewarded. The operation in Africa went exactly as planned. Elena performed flawlessly. Her shooting was accurate. Her decisions were sound. Her teammates trusted her completely. When they extracted the target, a terrorist leader responsible for 3 embassy bombings, Elena was the one who secured him. Her knee on his back, her hands on his wrists, her voice calm and controlled as she read him his rights under international law. You're a woman, the target spat, struggling uselessly beneath her. I'm a Navy SEAL, Elena replied. And you're done. They brought him back alive. Mission successful. 0 casualties. That night on the transport plane heading home, the platoon chief sat down beside her. Good work out there, Vance. Thank you, Chief. Mitchell was right about you. You've got something special. He paused. The men respect you. That's not easy to earn, especially not this fast. I just do my job. No, you do more than your job. You lead. Even when you're not in charge, you lead. He stood. Keep it up. You've got a hell of a career ahead of you. 3 years later, Elena Vance stood in front of a formation at Naval Special Warfare Center Coronado. She wasn't a candidate anymore. She wasn't even an operator anymore. She was an instructor. The candidates in front of her, 137 men and women, the largest class in BUD/S history, stared at her with a mixture of fear and awe. They had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. The woman who survived Hell Week while someone was trying to kill her. The woman who exposed corruption at the highest levels of the Navy. The woman who had become a legend before she ever fired a shot in combat. I'm Chief Petty Officer Elena Vance, she said, her voice carrying across the parade ground. And for the next 24 weeks, I'm going to make your lives very, very difficult. She walked slowly along the formation, studying faces, looking for the ones who had what it took, looking for the ones who would break. Some of you are here because you think you're tough. You're wrong. Toughness isn't enough. I've seen the toughest people in the world ring that bell because toughness without purpose is just ego, and ego doesn't survive this training. She stopped in front of a young woman in the second row, 19 years old, maybe 20. Eyes that held the same fire Elena had carried through these gates years ago. Some of you are here to prove something. To yourselves. To your families. To people who told you that you couldn't. She held the young woman's gaze. That's a better reason. Proving them wrong will carry you further than ego ever could. She resumed walking. But the best reason, the only reason that will get you through Hell Week, through dive phase, through combat training, through every moment when your body begs you to quit, is the simplest one. She stopped at the front of the formation. You want to protect people. You want to serve something greater than yourself. You want to be part of a brotherhood that will ask everything from you and give you everything in return. Her hand touched the trident on her chest. That's why I'm here. That's why I survived. And that's what I'm going to help you find in yourselves if you have it. She turned to face the compound. The grinder, the pool, the beach where she had almost drowned, almost been murdered, almost given up 100 times. Training begins tomorrow at 0400. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. The formation was dismissed. Elena watched them disperse, remembering the day she had stood where they were standing. Young, scared, determined. A hand touched her shoulder. Chief Vance. It was Master Chief Harmon. Older now, but still sharp, still present. You did good out there. I had a good teacher. Damn right you did. He smiled. Your father would be proud, you know. Not just of what you've accomplished, of who you've become. I know. She touched the letters in her pocket. She still carried them both. Every day. He told me. That night Elena sat on the beach one last time. The Pacific was calm. The stars were bright. The same stars her father had looked at years ago before everything changed. She pulled out his photograph. The man in dress blues holding a baby girl. I made it, Dad, she said to the waves. All the way. First female graduate of full SEAL training. First female SEAL instructor, all of it. The waves crashed softly against the sand. But you know what? That's not the part that matters. The records, the firsts, the history, none of that is what you would care about. She touched the trident on her chest. What matters is that I became the person you always knew I could be. I fought when fighting was hard. I stood up when standing was dangerous. I protected people who couldn't protect themselves. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't wipe them away. I became a warrior, Dad, just like you. And now I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure other people get the same chance I got. Making sure the Drakes and the Brennans never win. Making sure the system serves the people who deserve it, not the people who try to corrupt it. She stood brushing the sand from her uniform. I love you. I miss you. And wherever you are, I hope you can see what I've built. I hope you can see what your legacy really looks like. She kissed the photograph, tucked it back in her pocket. Watch over me, Dad. I've still got work to do. She walked away from the beach toward the compound, toward the candidates who would become her responsibility tomorrow. Elena Vance had spent her whole life fighting to prove she belonged. Now she would spend the rest of it making sure others never had to fight the same battles. That was her mission now. That was her purpose. And she would not fail. 6 months later, the first candidate from Elena's class graduated. A young woman named Maria Santos, 20 years old, daughter of a Marine who had died in Afghanistan. Elena pinned the trident to her chest personally. You earned this, Elena said. Every bit of it. Santos saluted. Her eyes were shining. Thank you, Chief, for everything. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You did the work. You survived the training. You proved them all wrong. Santos lowered her salute. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. How do you do it? How do you keep going day after day knowing what you know about how hard this is? Elena thought about the question. Thought about her father. Her letters. Her journey. You find something worth fighting for, she said finally. Something bigger than the pain. Bigger than the doubt. Bigger than the voices telling you to quit. What's yours? Elena touched the photograph in her pocket. The man in dress blues holding a baby girl. My father used to say I had more fight in me than I knew. He was right. But he didn't tell me where that fight came from. She met Santos's eyes. It comes from love. Love for the people who believed in me. Love for the people I protect. Love for the warrior I'm still becoming every single day. Santos nodded slowly. That's beautiful, Chief. It's the truth, and now it's yours to carry forward. Elena stepped back. Go celebrate with your family. You've earned it. Santos walked away, trident gleaming on her chest. Elena watched her go, feeling something settle in her chest. Pride. Satisfaction. Purpose. She had done what her father asked. She had proven them wrong. She had become a warrior. But more than that, she had become a teacher, a mentor, a guardian of the path that others would walk. Her father's legacy wasn't just the trident she wore. It was every candidate she trained, every barrier she broke, every person who looked at her and saw proof that no dream was too big, no obstacle too high, no voice of doubt too loud to overcome. Elena Vance had fought her way into a world that didn't want her. Now she owned it. And she was just getting started. The story of the girl from Montana who became a Navy SEAL didn't end with a graduation ceremony, or a trident pin, or a letter from a father she barely remembered. It continued every single day. In every candidate she pushed to be better. In every mission she planned. In every moment she chose to stand when sitting would have been easier. Elena Vance had touched something that tried to break her. And she had made it regret every single second. That was her truth. That was her victory. That was her legend. Her